Hi everyone, this is Ugur. In this video, we will implement one-time password authentication using Lucia Auth, TypeScript, PostgreSQL, and Drizzle ORM. We will also use React phone number input for masking our phone number, as you can see here. As I enter, it automatically finds the country format entered input, which provides a nice user experience. After entering my phone number, I can click on send OTP. Now we have a field which we use another great UI component called input OTP. When I enter the last digit, it automatically sends a request to our backend to validate the OTP. Let's wait for 5 seconds more and send it again. This time we will enter the correct code. Sending OTP and OTP sent successfully. And we actually send an SMS to our phone number using Amazon Simple Notification Service. Here you can see the last OTP is 556. I entered, and as you can see, OTP has verified and I am logged in, which is great. Let's go and learn how we can implement this. Before that, if you want to access the source code of this project, you can go to my GitHub profile and go to Next 14 Lucia Auth PostgreSQL. There is a TypeScript example repository, and you can find some branches here, and you just click on mobile OTP. You will access the whole source code of this project that I will implement in this video. Anyway, let's go and code it. First of all, we will use Amazon Simple Notification Service to send SMS. So let's go to AWS. You should log into your console. If you don't have an AWS account, you can just create it. It's easy. I am logged in, and what I'll do is go to search bar and type Simple Notification Service. Here we go, and click on this. And now it asks us to create a topic, but we don't need to create a topic. It's for large scale applications, and we will simply send an OTP SMS. So we don't have to create a topic for it. What will you do is click on this menu icon here, hamburger icon, and go to text messaging and scroll down a bit. And as you can see, it says this account is in the SMS sandbox in US East Virginia. That's fine. Our account is running a sandbox. It's for preventing spams. So after you test your application and you sure that works, you will have to click on exit SMS sandbox. And once you do that, AWS will ask you some questions, and you will need to provide necessary informations. After that, your account will be able to send messages to the number that is not in your sandbox. For now, we will continue in the sandbox, and that's why we need to enter a verified phone number. We can only send SMS to those verified numbers if we are in sandbox. I have already verified my phone number, but you will see nothing here if you don't enter this earlier. You will click on add phone number here, and you just put your phone number and select the language. In my case, it was English, but it doesn't matter. After you click on add phone number, AWS will send you a verification code, and it will ask you to enter this verification code. After you enter this, you should see your phone number here, which means that we can send SMS to that number. After completing this step, we will search for IAM. We will create a role here so that we will use this role in our application. I see my dashboard, and I will click on users, and then I will simply click on create user. Let's give it a name. I will say SMS user. It doesn't matter actually. And we will click on next, and then we will say attach policies directly, and we will search for SNS, and then we can select Amazon SNS full access. The user we will create will be able to do anything in SNS, and I will click next. That's fine. I will continue. Now it's created, as you can see. I can click on the username. We will need to create an access key to send requests to AWS. And you can click on application running outside AWS. And this is just a warning. Give it a name, doesn't matter. And now we have an access key and a secret key. I won't reveal the secret key to you. Let's go and copy to access key. I will go to my env file. I can type AWS access key ID equals to that one. I will add another value to here, which is AWS secret access key. You can just copy it from here. Okay, I have pasted my secret key as well. So we are good to go. After passing our environment variables into env file, we should create a new file inside lib, which is aws.ts. We will import AWS from AWS SDK, but we didn't install it yet. So let's install this package. And now this AWS object has a function called config, and it has also a function called update, and it takes an options parameter, as you can see, and we have some auto completion. We will use region, which was US East 1 in my case. Click on here, North Virginia, and it shows the key that you need to use. In my case, it is US East 1. That's why I wrote US East 1. And then we will give our access key and secret access key process.env.aws secret access key that we have defined in our environment file. Then we will create a new SNS instance and assign it to a variable called SNS, new AWS SNS, and it will get some options. As you can see, all we do is giving an API version, we can say latest, and then just export this SNS variable like this. I have deleted my database, so I will go to README and copy this line to create a new local PostgreSQL instance. I will paste it, and you can see that a container is running. And we can also see that from here. Our database is running. Great. Before doing anything, let's go into our schema and change it. This comes from the username and password authentication, and we will change it a little bit. First of all, we don't need to have a username and hash password anymore. Instead, we will have a phone number. Its type will be text, and we will do not null, and it should also be unique. That's why I will add unique as well. And then for storing our OTPs, I will create another table called OTP table like this. And here we will have an ID, which is primary key, and a code, which stands for the OTP code, and a field for user ID so that we will know which code belongs to which user. And we can say text user ID, and it will be not null. And this references to user tables ID field. So it's a foreign key. We will have an expires at. We can check if this OTP has expired or not. That's great. That's enough for OTP table. And we will have another table for a user table and OTP tables relationship, so that once we query to user table, we could also get the OTP information of a user. And how we do that in Drizzle ORM is like this. Export const user relations. You can give any name you want. In our cases, it will be users relations. And I will call relations from Drizzle ORM. I will pass a table, which will be user table in our cases. As a second parameter, we can pass a function that it returns one or many, and we will select one. This function will return an object, and we can give a name, use this function that we get from here. And now we will pass OTP table and config object. Let's have this. As you can see, it requires to enter fields and references. Fields will stand for the user table fields like this, and the references will be OTP tables user ID. That's it for the schema.ts. So now we can call npx drizzle kit generate pg, and it asks some questions as we have some migrations here. Let's not deal with migrations and delete them. And let's run npx drizzle kit generate pg once more. And now it runs fine. And then I will say push pg. Okay, that's good. Let's run npx drizzle kit studio. Here we can see we have a user table, session table, and OTP table. Okay, that's good. So let's go to our application right now. We have a form. It asks for username and password. We need to change. I will go to sign in form, and we are using Zolt for validating the forms. I will change it to phone number like this. And we have a schema that we have defined types in the previous videos. I will change it to phone number like this, and the error is gone. So let's get rid of one of the form fields. For example, this one. I will pass phone number, get rid of this. And now we have the correct form, right? But this input field is not good. If you want to provide a good user experience, you may want to use this React phone number input element here. So I will copy this and create a new terminal and paste it here. Okay, it is installed. Let's copy this component from here. Instead of input, paste it this one. Let's copy those as well, paste it here. Okay, value and on change, we don't need those. What we will do is pass our field. React hook form will do its thing. So we don't need to have a state for the input. So let's see, we can make it better. I will go to input component, copy the default styles, and go to the funny input component and pass a class name like this. And it's already better, but I didn't like the focus. So how can I get rid of that? As you can see, the class name we give, it affects the div, not the input that has the border. So in Tailwind, you can change a child's style like this. So have a bracket and an ampersand, an arrow, and then you can type which element you want to access. In our cases, it's input. I will say outline none, and the outline is gone. Perfect. That's actually good. As you can see, as I entered, it also shows the country, which is great. I love this library. As I enter a number, it automatically formats the number and show the country's flag. It's beautiful. Okay, that's great. Now go back to code and let's implement what will happen when we click on submit. We have on submit button that we call sign in function, but it was for username and password. Let's check it. Yeah, as you can see, it is now invalid function. What we will do is create a new actions. In the previous videos, I removed the content of auth.actions, but from now on, I decided to create a new file instead removing the existing one. That's why I will create a new file called OTP auth actions. Here we can write our new functions. First function we will need is send OTP function, and it will get a phone number, which is a string. Then we will send OTP SMS in this function. Besides that function, we will also need to have a function to generate an OTP. We can generate 6-digit OTP like this. It's just basic mathematical operation. After that, we can have a function called send SMS like this. It will get a phone number and also a message, which will be OTP in our cases. And also, it should also be an async function. Here, all we do is calling from a lib/AWS, and we will say publish, and we will call publish function, which will get some parameters, and one of them is message, other one is phone number, like this. That's all. Then we can call promise to make this a promise, and let's assign it to a variable res, and we can just return success true data res.message.id like this. And let's wrap this with a try catch and return success false and error message here and give this any. Great. Now we have two functions. One of them is generating OTP, other one send SMS. Now we should be able to write this function. In this function, we will generate an OTP and we will insert that OTP in our OTP table. Then we will check if this phone number has exist in our database. If it does not exist, we will insert that too. That means we will have multiple insert queries or delayed queries. That's why we need to use a transaction here so that if one of them has failed, we can roll back. First thing, we will need to check if user exists. So let me create a transaction. We will import DB from database and call transaction like this, and it will return a transaction object. We can query to our database with this. Now I will say const existed user to check if user is existed or not. TRX query user table find first where, we will use where, and table, and we will use equal function from drizzle, and we will just check table phone number is equal to the phone number that we pass into this function like this. And good thing is that we can also include the OTP data to this user. Using with clause, it takes an object as a value, and as you can see, we have auto completion. I will say OTP and true. Now, if there is an existed user, we will get this data along with OTP data as well, which we will use in the future. I forgot to add an await here. So we query to database and get existed user. And what we can do is, if existed user is not exist, we can create a new user, trx insert user table, and we can pass some values here, which will be the phone number only, like this. And it asks for an ID. We can use generate ID from Lucia like this. And after inserting our user into data table, we can assign it to a variable and change existed user to user. But we can do it since we have defined existed user as a constant. So let's make it a let. That's fine. And as you can see, it's a query result never. So we can make this returning like this so that it will return an array of users. Then we can just say existed user is equal to user's first item, since we will have only one returning value. But as you can see, we get a TypeScript error. It says that OTP is missing in this newly created user, which is correct. We don't have any OTP for the newly created user, but as you can see, existed user type has an OTP. We can change its type to as type of user table, then in first select. Then we can say OTP, which is an optional field, a type of OTP table in first select like this. Let me hover over the existed user, and you see that we made OTP optional, which is great. And this error has gone. Great. After that, we can generate an OTP using the function that we have created here. Then we need to insert this OTP into OTP table. That's why I will say x insert OTP table values, and it will get some parameters like this. Code will be OTP. Expires at, let's make it 5 minutes like this, and ID will be generate ID. We will pass the existed user here. Either it's an existed user or newly created user that we assign it to existed user variable. So that's fine. We should put an await here since it's an async operation. Then let's create a message here, and we will call send SMS function. We can return success, success true, and message OTP sent successfully. We can wrap this transaction with a try catch and return success false and message error.message. Make it any, that's fine. And lastly, we will wait for this transaction's result. Let's make this function async, and we can just simply return the result of this transaction like this. Okay, great. Let's try it. Sign in form, and I will change this to send OTP, and send OTP waits for only phone number. Okay, we were returning error here, but we have used success in this tutorial. So let's make this like this. Anyway, so that's it for this function. We can remove this line. We will also show rest.message in here as well. Let's go back to our application now. It says can't resolve fs. We get this error, and I have looked at a bit and I have found that I forgot to add the use server here. So now let's check. I will hit submit and it says OTP sent successfully. And you can actually see that I got a new notification and it shows my OTP. We are able to send SMS, but I don't want to look at my phone each time I send a new OTP. That's why I will make this comment for now and just log the OTP instead of sending SMS. But we get an SMS, so it works. Now I will go to local Drizzle Studio just to see what we have. We have a number, an OTP, and I can see the OTP, right? What will happen if I send it again? Let's try. And it says OTP sent successfully. Now we have two OTP, which both of them is actually valid since they expires that in the future. But that shouldn't be the case, right? To fix this issue, every time we send a new OTP, we should remove the old one, right? So what can I say is if existed user OTP is exist, I want to delete OTP table var equals to OTP table user ID and which equals to existed user ID. Now, but first of all, let me clean the database. Okay, I have both deleted user and OTP, so let's try it again. I will hit submit, OTP sent successfully, and we have a user and one OTP. Let me click on again, OTP sent successfully, and as you can see, code has changed, but we only have one OTP for per user, which is great. Now let's create a new function to actually check if the given OTP matches with the code that we have in table. I will say export const validate OTP, and this function will get a phone number and OTP. Let's have a try catch here and return success false message error message. Okay, make this any. And now first we need to get the OTP from database. We don't use transaction here. It's because we don't have insert or delete, like multiple insert, multiple delete here. So we will query to database by saying db query OTP table find first var table equals to table.code equals to OTP, right? But there is an issue with this approach. We only query to OTP data. We don't have any user data. I mean, we have a user ID, but we don't have the phone number of the user. That's why we can just query to user table like this. Instead of checking codes, we will check phone number with the given phone number that passed to function like this. And we can use with clause and we can say OTP is true. Right now we have user information along with the OTP. If this not exist, we can just say OTP not found. Otherwise, we should check if existed OTP's code. Actually, we can rename it to existed user like this, not found. And we can check if OTP code equals to OTP given in the parameters. And if it's not equal, we can just return invalid OTP. We should also check if this OTP has expired or not. We can check it like this. We are just returning OTP expired. After passing all these conditions, that means the OTP was valid. So that we need to delete the OTP data from our database. We can do it like this, db delete and pass OTP table where OTP table user ID equals to existed user's ID. And then we can just create a session as we normally do using Lucia. Like this, we are creating a session by calling create session from Lucia. Let's import Lucia. And also we are creating a cookie using Lucia create session cookie, and we are passing our ID. And lastly, we are using cookies from Next headers to set our session cookie. Like this, all done. And now we have a validate OTP, which we can validate the given OTP, but we didn't provide a UI to enter the verification code. Let's add this. For OTP input, we will use input OTP. This is a brand new package which has a great UI. Let me install it first. Okay, it's installed, but we need to make some configuration. First of all, we need to add some animations to Tailwind config. Let's go to tailwind config.ts, and here I will search for keyframes and I will append it to here like this. Then we have an animation. Let's copy and paste it here. That's it for the tailwind. This is a thing we have. It's because we are using ShadCN already, so we don't need to add this. Now I will copy those functions and create a new component. I will make it OTP input and paste it here in slot props. Mark this with use client and import slot props and cn from utils. That's great. I will export them so that we can use those components inside our sign-in form. That's all. Let's go to sign-in form and let's copy this and paste it below the form. We need to wrap them with a fragment since React only expects one child. Import OTP input from OTP input, and we can import them from our component that we have just created. Great. So look, we already have a great UI, but I didn't like this. So let's remove and let's actually get rid of this and make this 6. That's great. Okay, that's perfect. Let's have a title above this field. That's fine. Verify OTP, enter the OTP sent to your phone number. That's great. Maybe we can wrap them with a div so that they look more compact. That's nice. But as you can see, even I refresh the page, I see verify OTP field, which shouldn't be the case, I believe. It should be seen only if I enter a number and then click on submit. And then later I should see this verified field. That's why I will have a new state. Let's call it const show OTP input. It is set to false by default, but when it's set success, let's make it true. I'll scroll down and conditionally render this div. It will be rendered only if show OTP input is true, like this. Let me send it to my phone number. I can see the verify OTP field right now, which is great. Okay, and this component actually gets props on complete, which we can call any function. Let's say we will have an onComplete function, and let's create this function here. We will call verify OTP, validate OTP, and we will pass the OTP. It also expects the phone number, so we should get it from the form values. Yeah, we can call it like this. If that success is true, we can push them into our homepage, as we can just show a error message. So let's try, which was wrong, and it says invalid OTP. Let's check what was the true one. It is this one. I will copy and paste it. And now I'm logged in, as you can see, which is great. Okay, everything seems fine. We can cut this video here, but I want to add one more thing. As you can see, I can spam the API. I can send many requests to server, which is not a thing that we should allow. That's why we will copy some code that we have written in the previous videos, which we will use a hook, use countdown hook. As you may remember, I will paste it here. And this hook comes from use hook ts. Let's install this and it's done. Let's import it like this. That's great. And when we send a new OTP, I will start the countdown like this. And we will have a use effect. When the count became 0, we will stop the countdown, reset the countdown, and we will set show OTP input to false. Lastly, I will scroll down and render this when count is bigger than 0. Go back to our app, send a new OTP sent successfully, and we should have some kind of a UI change here. Let's make this submit disabled. So it should be disabled when count is bigger than 0 and less than 60. And now user is not able to click on it right now. And we can change the copy as well, like this, so that we show to user when they can click on this button again. That's great. Let's test a case that OTP has expired. For that, I will go to OTP actions, and here I will set expires at to only 1 second for now. So even now it should be expired at by now, and it says OTP expired. That's great. So let me revert this back. Okay, it's 5 minutes. We only prevent UI attacks by disabling this button. Attackers may hit your endpoint endlessly and damage you. We need to also block them to send infinite times OTP. In our cases, we only see them in the console, but in real time, that means you will send many SMS to a number, which will cost you some money. That's why we are trying to block it. To block that, we should go to send OTP function. Here we check if existed user has an OTP. We are just deleting the current one without checking anything, right? Here we should check if it's been 5 minutes or not. If they trying to get another OTP without being 5 minutes, we shouldn't allow them. We can check that by looking at existed user OTP expires at bigger than new date, the current date. So yeah, let's say time is 10 o'clock, which is when we sent this email, and expires at will be 10:05. And if current time is 10:03, like this, we shouldn't allow them to send a new OTP, right? OTP already sent, try again after 5 minutes. But we show like this, and we make this time 1 minute in front end, but it's 5 minutes in the back end. It checks if it's been 5 minutes or not, but it should really check if it's been 1 minute or not. So how we can do it? Let's have a new variable, 1 minute check, and it will be existed user OTP expires at. Then we should make a subtraction. We should subtract 4 so that this one will be in the future 1 minute. It's because this expires at 5 minutes in the future. That's why we are subtracting 4 here. Then we can replace it with this, and we can make this 1 minute. Now let me send an OTP. We have a disable button, so let's get rid of that for now just to see if API prevents the spam or not. I will remove this one, and you can see that OTP already sent. Try again after 1 minute. That's great. Even though I'm able to click, as you can see, we don't update the current OTP. So it is 238. I'm clicking on it and it doesn't change. So let's wait 5 more seconds and I will click on it again. Okay, let me click. And now I get OTP sent successfully. Everything seems to be working. I hope you learned something new from this video, and I hope it helped you. And if you found it helpful, please subscribe and like the video. See you in the next videos. Bye bye.